Okay, Oak Rovers, this is a video that's going to help you find the surface area of a cylinder. Now what I'm looking for when I find the surface area of the cylinder is I want to find out how many squares it's going to take to cover the top and the bottom of the cylinder and also the sides. And if I think of this cylinder as a can of soup, I need to cover the top circle, the bottom circle, and then the label of the soup can, which is the sides of that cylinder. Now when I do that, there's going to be, just like in volume of a cylinder, I have 4 steps that I have to follow for all these problems. And in order to get all your points when you take the tests and quizzes, you have to do all 4 of these steps for each problem. And those steps are to write a formula, then you have to substitute in the variables with numbers, then you have to do it one step at a time, solve the problem, and then you have to put the appropriate label on this problem, and that means the correct units. Now, when I talk about units for surface area, it's how many squares covered up. So my units are going to be centimeters squared or inches squared or units squared. Let's try this problem and let's see how it goes. Now, when I talk about the surface area, I have a top circle and a bottom circle. So I have 2 bases, and the bases are both circles. And then I have the sides. And we talked about this in class yesterday. Those sides, the side of a cylinder is really the circumference times the height. Because I can cut up the sides of that, I can cut open that cylinder on the sides and open it up, and it makes a rectangle. And one of the dimensions of that rectangle is going to be the circumference, and the other dimension of that rectangle is going to be the height of the cylinder. So here's how I kind of state my my surface area. Here's the formula for surface area. When you take the MCA test this spring, they're going to give you a formula of 2 bases plus perimeter times height. Now the perimeter of a circle, or of a cylinder, is just going to be the perimeter of the base, which is going to be a circle, and the perimeter of a circle is the same thing as a circumference. And the base is just going to be the circle, and the area of the base is going to be pi r squared. So if I simplify this formula, here's what I get. I get surface area is equal to 2 pi r squareds. Now the 2 pi r squareds are the top circle and the bottom circle of the cylinder. And then I have plus 2 pi r, which is the same thing as the circumference, or perimeter, and then multiply that by the height. Remember, the second part of this formula is going to be the rectangle you get when you cut open the sides of the cylinder and open it up to form a rectangle. The one dimension is going to be your height, and the other dimension is going to be the circumference. So if I have an example like this one right here, here's an example of a cylinder that I have. And let's see, you can kind of see that cylinder. If you look at that cylinder, my height is 8, and my radius of the circle of the base is going to be 5. So the first step is to write down the formula. So when I'm doing this problem, I write down the formula. So I'm going to copy that formula. Surface area is equal to 2 pi r squareds. And remember, that's the top and the bottom circles. That's the bases. I have 2 of them, a top base and a bottom base, plus 2 pi r. The 2 pi r part is just going to be the circumference times the height. And that's that rectangle. Sometimes they call this lateral area on some of the problems that you might do. You can think of this second part of this problem as the label of a soup can. That's the label of the soup can, and this is the top and the bottom of the soup can. So now if I substitute, so the first step was formula, and I wrote the formula down. Now next I've got to substitute. I've got to replace my r and my h with 5 and 8. So it becomes 2 pi 5 squared, because 5 is a radius, plus 2 pi 5 times 8. Now I'm going to multiply that out. On the first part, I've got to do the 5 squared first. 5 squared is 25, and the second part I'll do 5 times 8. 5 times 8 is 40. So I get surface area is equal to 2 pi 25. I just did the 5 squared, and then 2 pi 40. And I got the 40 because it's 5 times 8. Then let's multiply the numbers on the first part and multiply the numbers on the second part. 2 times 25 is 50, 2 times 40 is 80. So I get surface area is equal to 50 pi plus 80 pi. Now, when I solve this, I can just add the two numbers up. If I had 50 pi and 80 pi, that's going to be a total of 130 pi, and then my units are centimeters squared. Now that is perfectly acceptable answer. That is an exact answer. 130 pi is an exact number. Even though it looks like it's kind of vague, 130 pi is an exact answer. So it's 130 pi centimeters squared, and if I want to multiply 130 times 3.14, I can get an approximation of that. And what that answer is the surface area is equal to 408.2 centimeters squared. That means if I have 400, it's going to take 408.2 squared centimeters. So if you think of centimeter grid paper, you could use 408.2 of those to cover up this cylinder that has a radius of 5 centimeters and a height of 8 centimeters. Hopefully that helped. Remember, when you do these problems, you got to do all the steps. Write the formula, substitute, go ahead and solve it, and put down an appropriate label. If you skip any of the steps, you will get points taken off for any of those things that you're missing. Hope that helped. Thanks.